Now back to the Dana Barrett Show here on WGST.
Hey, all my Atlanta-based technology friends, or just my technology friends anywhere. If you have not already gotten your tickets for the Summit 2019, you need to. It's the TAG event of the year, Technology Association of Georgia. And one of the keynote speakers this year is Silicon Valley icon and best-selling author Guy Kawasaki. He is joining me on the phone right now. Guy, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Listen, I'm
better than the Rams.
Yes. Sadly, you are better than the Rams. Yes, and better than the halftime show.
But not as good as Tom Brady.
But not as good as Tom Brady or Gladys Knight. She was awesome. While we're breaking it down, listen, Guy Kawasaki joining us on the phone right now. It's great to have you. I'm excited to speak to you. I know you've got a lot going on, but first of all, I'm excited that you're coming to Atlanta. Are you going to give us a little preview of what the keynote's going to be about?
Sure, because I'm talking to tech entrepreneurs and tech companies, I'm going to talk about innovation in tech and evangelism, marketing, entrepreneurship, all the good stuff.
All the good stuff that you've written many, many books about. I want to talk about your upcoming book, though, because you've got a book coming out at the end of this month called Wise Guy. And this is a bit of a departure from your previous books, yeah?
It's very much a departure. Most of my books are very tactical in the sense of this is how to make a PowerPoint pitch. This is how to do a demo. This one is not so tactical. It is not an autobiography or a memoir, however. It is more the lessons of my life. So your listeners may be familiar with the work called Chicken Soup for the Soul.
Of course.
This is Chicken Soup for the Soul by Guy only, as opposed to Chicken Soup for the Soul, which has a lot of contributors. This is all me. So you can think of it as maybe miso soup for the soul.
Yeah. I love that. Relates a little to your background. It makes sense. What made you want to do that at this point, Guy? What made you want to write this book?
Royalty. No.
Good answer. We're going to be friends forever, I can tell.
No, you know what? This is my 15th book.
Wow.
And I just decided, there's a lot of stories I can tell. So it's not a sort of brag piece. It's not about, this is how I landed on the shores of America and pulled myself off my bootstraps, et cetera, et cetera. Not at all. I would say about 3/4 of the story is about how I screwed up and what anyone can learn from how I screwed up. So this is really meant as one person's stories in life that you can maybe apply to your life.
Well, I'm not trying
to position myself as Nelson Mandela or,
That's fair. I mean, you obviously, though, have done a few important things over the years, and so there are lessons to be learned there, I'm sure. But for people who don't know a ton of your background, Guy, can you just give me sort of the highlights? I mean, that's probably hard to do, but, give us a little bit of, your background with Apple and in the tech community in particular.
Sure. So I worked for Apple twice in my life. The first time I was Apple's software evangelist. The second time I was Apple's chief evangelist. So my job was to convince people to write Macintosh software. That's the first time. The second time was to convince people to stick with Macintosh. And I've also started a venture capital firm, some software companies. Today I'm the chief evangelist of a graphics company called Canva out of Sydney, Australia, that many of your listeners probably use to create great graphics. And I'm also Mercedes-Benz brand ambassador, although they sure didn't send me a ticket for the Super Bowl.
What's up with that?
I don't know.
All right. You need to give them a call.
Yes, I will.
But it sounds like a lot of what you were doing over the course of your career has been sort of advocating for this company or that. What makes that something that's so important?
To me or to the company?
Well, I think to the companies to even have somebody in that role, because it's not a traditional, that wasn't a role. When I was graduating from college, it wasn't like, what do you want to be? Oh, an evangelist. That wasn't a thing.
Yeah. There's kind of a 2,000-year gap between me and Jesus. So evangelism comes from a Greek word meaning bring the good news. And so I bring the good news. I brought the good news of Macintosh, how it made people more creative and productive.
Yeah.
And I'm bringing the good news of Canva, how it has democratized design, so anyone can create great designs. So that's what I do. And the difference between evangelism and sales is typically an evangelist has your best interest at heart, not his or hers. Whereas sales is all about meeting your quota, your bonus, your commission.
I love that. So, right, people recognize that when they're meeting with the salesperson, that person wants to make the deal so that they can get their commission.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Look,
although, I have to say that this is not to say that if I evangelize you on Macintosh or evangelize you on Canva, don't get me wrong, it's also good for me.
Sure.
But the element is different. The emphasis is that it's good for you. And, by the way, also good for me.
Which, in theory, should be the same for sales, too, but people maybe don't trust that quite as much.
Yeah. You would hope, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I don't want to necessarily make this a whole interview about Canva, but I was saying to you via email before we got on the air together that I use Canva, and I love it. And I think this is sort of the way things are going from a technology standpoint, putting tools into the hands of average users who aren't necessarily, I'm not a graphic artist, but I'm able to communicate to graphic artists using Canva what I want and create things on my own for certain projects, which I love.
I couldn't have said it better.
See, I should be an evangelist.
You should. You are.
There you go.
You just assumed the role.
I did. And I actually do that for any product I love. But, I think, do you think that trend, I mean, what Canva's doing for graphic art is a trend that's happening across the board in technology?
Well, there's several trends going on here. One is sort of democratization, right? So you don't need to buy expensive software. You don't need to rent expensive software. You don't need to spend months to learn something. So that's one element, and that's certainly true. And the other thing is sort of this cloud-based system where because Canva is cloud-based, you can access it from any computer with internet access, your Android phone, your iOS phone. You don't have to download something big and heavy and then install it and then open an account and get a password and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
You do open an account with Canva, but you just open an account and you start working in your browser.
Yeah, you're off and running. Little funny side note, if you're watching this interview on our Facebook, or rather on our live stream on my website, and you're seeing a graphic of Guy Kawasaki, that graphic was created in Canva, just FYI. It's like very meta what's happening here.
That's good.
Listen, Guy, before I let you go, any further thoughts that you want to share about, coming to Atlanta, the technology scene here, what you know about it, looking forward into 2019 from a technology perspective, anything you want to share?
Well, I'm all about empowering people. That's the mantra by which I live. So I hope people come to this event, and I'm going to try to help them be more empowered to create great companies and products and services, and I'll do as much as I can in 1 hour.
I love it. I'm sure it's going to be fabulous. Guy Kawasaki, thank you so much for spending some time with us on the phone today. We will post a link to Guy's new book called Wise Guy, as well as all things Guy Kawasaki. And again, you can see him in person at the summit, which is February 12th. And guess what? The Dana Barrett Show will be there too, broadcasting live. It's going to be a great day. We'll post a link to that as well.